Agreed. But yeah, hopefully there's still more rewards to go. Yeah, I believe with the MVP and what are I know what other awards still have to be announced yet. I don't know, they haven't all been announced.
MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year. Is that it?
I think those there because we know Rookie of the Year obviously. And honestly, with the reports that I'm reading, there's a pretty good chance. There's a fairly decent chance that Wemby could win Defensive Player of the Year as well. Although
That'd be crazy, man.
I don't think he will.
I don't think so.
But I think he's gonna finish second. Honestly, but and then MVP. A lot of what I've been hearing is gonna win it, but nothing. Those are all rumors until everything gets officially announced.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get to talk about Wemby being a finalist, but that within itself is pretty amazing. I mean, that tells you that he'll probably be on the all-defensive first team at least, which that's never been done for a rookie. I believe it was Tim Duncan and two other rookies were on the all-defensive second team as rookies, but no rookie has ever been on the all-defensive first team. So that is pretty cool and saying something considering the Spurs as a whole were one of the worst defensive teams in the league. But
Wemby was not one of those guys that can.
Yeah, it's just that's one of the reasons why there's no shot he wins Defensive Player of the Year. You can't have one of the worst defenses in the leading player on one of the worst defenses in the league win Defensive Player of the Year. That just sounds wrong.
I think Gobert's probably gonna win it.
Yeah, I mean, it tends to be the best defender on the best defensive team that year. That just tends to be what the award is. And I think Bam is I'm glad that he got some love for it, but yeah. All right, let's talk about some playoff basketball since that's the more interesting piece here. And I guess we didn't even mention before I say that Tyrese Maxey winning Most Improved Player isn't really shocking to anybody. Yeah, so I think that's why we kind of breezed by. I feel like that's been the assumption for a long time.
Kind of a brainer, in my opinion.
So yeah, let's move on to some playoff basketball. I would say on the whole right now, to sum it up, most of it is very shocking to me right now. Yeah. If we're being honest about it, which I'm disappointed. That's why I'm disappointed we didn't get to talk last week because I'm like, I think things just keep getting more and more insane. And I'm like, what is happening right now? So let's start off in the Eastern Conference. I feel like we normally start in the West. So
both conferences are very equally,
So would you prefer to start with the Bucks or end with the Bucks? Do you want to get that out of the way? Or let's get it out of the way.
Might as well get the Bucks out of the way.
It's on my mind anyway. I was at Game 4 in Indiana here, and I got to witness Bobby Portis getting ejected from that game. But, I will give the Bucks a little bit of credit, which they played very hard, honestly. And I think that if they were at full strength, that they could have potentially swept the Pacers for real. Because, they won by 13 points, the Pacers, but the Bucks were in it almost the entire game until they kind of ran away mid-third quarter. They pulled away a little bit, but this was a super competitive game the entire way through. And that's saying a lot when you're missing Dame and Giannis. But, we're setting ourselves up right now to look at the Pacers or the Knicks being in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's how things are shaking up right now.
Yeah, and it's kind of unfortunate with Giannis missing this series and Lillard missing the last game. And going forward for Game 5, they already said that both Giannis and Dame are doubtful. So that kind of might put the nail in the coffin. Even though it's at home, I don't think it's over without Giannis and Dame's just gonna beat this Indiana team. They're just too. And we saw it as they kind of pulled away in Game 4. They had just had too much firepower on offense for the Bucks to really keep up. You're missing Giannis, who not just offensively, but is your defensive anchor. It's just makes it quite an uphill battle. And if it wasn't for one half a basketball from Damian Lillard, and this series would have already been over. So, I mean, yeah, it looks like I'd be. I mean, anything could happen, but I'd be very, very shocked if this isn't over. I'm not sure if they play tomorrow or Wednesday, but yeah, the series just injuries just got to the Bucks, and although I will say, I have finally for the first time this season have actually been pleased with how Middleton's been playing.
Yeah.
He struggled last game, but he did put up had that 40 plus point game. So and then Lopez actually played.
He was so good
for the first time all season.
He was really good.
It seems like, but it's just gonna be the only way the Bucks have a chance of surviving game. We're gonna need probably gonna need 50 from Chris Middleton. That's kind of because if you're looking towards Game 5 specifically, who can the Bucks rely on to carry the offensive load? And to be honest, Chris Middleton's the only guy that has any potential of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think that that's going to be nearly enough to beat this Indy team. So, unfortunately, I think it's a one and done series for the Bucks.
And just what an appropriate way for the season to end, honestly. It's just been a season full of disappointment. And not to say that Giannis and Dame are sitting out because they don't want to play, because that seems a little extreme, but it just feels like it's going to be another excuse for why this season ended the way it did. It's just, but let's make no mistake about it. This entire season has been a disaster for the Bucks. And people are going to remember oh, they lost in the playoffs because no. This season was a disaster before then.
That does give the Bucks a cop-out.
That's what I'm saying. It feels like an excuse, and I don't like that. So I want it to be known that this season was a disaster, and that shouldn't get lost in the translation of anything else.
But you did just say a few minutes earlier this could have been a 4-0 sweep if both of them were playing.
It could have been, and it's just part of the reason I say that too is watching the Pacers play. Why are you even staying competitive with the Bucks without Giannis and Dame? To me, that says all you need to know. That's a young team who can't play defense, so it's just not their time of year. But what about their potential opponent on the other side? We have the Knicks right now up 3-1. It's likely at this point, unless there's going to be a collapse, that the Knicks end up meeting the Pacers. But another kind of surprising series. I think a lot of people favored the 76ers and the Knicks are banged up. They're not going to be able to make it by them. So, I would consider this overall kind of surprising as well.
Yeah, and it's weird how well the Knicks seem to play without Julius Randle.
Yeah.
That's a bit concerning. Jalen Brunson, he's
okay.
He's that dude. But you could tell Joel Embiid's just nowhere near 100%.
Mm-hmm.
He's really, you hate to use kind of the injury excuse, but if this is a Joel Embiid at 100%, we could be looking at a different series altogether, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the Knicks, the Knicks, this is a Tom Thibodeau team. They play hard. They have Jalen Brunson spearheading it, and yeah, the Sixers are just too with Tyrese Maxey. We just got done talking about him winning Most Improved. He's definitely a star, borderline superstar, but your team is centered around Joel Embiid. And when you have Joel Embiid not at 100%, playing against a team in the Knicks who like to wear you down and just tire you out, that's just not a good recipe for the Sixers. And that's just kind of it. I hate to say it all of revolves around Joel Embiid and him not at 100%, but I really feel like that's kind of been the case.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, this team is built around Joel Embiid. The entire premise of this team's success is built around him being healthy, him being 100%. The pieces and players they brought in are meant to play around Joel Embiid. That's how this team is built right now. So when he isn't playing and you're not, they're trying to run the offense through him, but he's had a whole host of problems recently between the face problem and the knee injuries, and it just seems like it keeps adding up more and more. So, yeah, I mean, once again, it's another excuse, I guess. I mean, the 76ers, I think, are in a little bit of a different boat than the Bucks, but the reality for both of those teams at the end of the day is that it's not the season they were hoping for. I think both of them had at least Eastern Conference Finals aspirations, at least the chance to lose to the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. But either way, I mean, both of those teams had the potential to be there, and those are, when fully healthy, the second and third best teams, depending on how you want to debate it, which is which. But they're the second and third best teams either way in the entire Eastern Conference, with very little debate, I believe, when they're fully healthy. So I think it's interesting. I mean, I was already starting to think about like the Knicks and Pacers series. I think that's a semi-interesting series because you have the very defensive-minded Knicks against the Pacers, who play very fast-paced and led the league in scoring, but also can't play defense, which was very evident by. I didn't even know Danilo Gallinari was on the Bucks until he was scoring the other night. But yeah, I think that'll be an interesting series. I'd personally favor the Knicks in that series. Just I think I always say that defense plays better this time of year. The game tends to slow down. I do think it'll be a good series. I don't think we're looking at a sweep or a 5-game. I think it can go 6 at least, but it'll be an interesting series. Two teams that, for both of them, pretty inexperienced when it comes playoff time too. So both treading new waters here.
Yeah, and you got and not just that. You talk about that's a pretty good coaching matchup too. If you're
yeah,
you're looking at what you got, Tom Thibodeau and Rick, like come on now, that's like a dream coaching matchup.
yeah, that is a really good one. Okay, what else we got in the East here? We got the Celtics, who are they're only up 2-1 right now. I feel like they're playing right now though as we're recording.
Yeah, and they're probably about to win. Like as we're recording, I'm looking at.
Oh yeah, they're murdering them.
They're up 23 points in the third quarter.
Okay, so yeah, they'll be up 3-1. I mean, that series is gonna be over. Sorry, Heat, love you, love what you stand for, but it's gonna be over. So on that side, we have the Celtics and Heat potentially being matched up with either the Cavs or Magic, which has also turned into an interesting series. The Magic got absolutely pummeled in the first 2 games, and then they've come back and won the last 2. So that's a series that's tied up 2-2 now.
Yeah, and just not much to note on the Celtics Heat series other than you kind of figured the Heat weren't gonna get swept. They're too good, and they're too well coached to, go down like that. So I'm not surprised they were able to take a game. But this Cavs Magic series, man, this is like we're looking. I mean, we'll talk about the West, and there's one series in the West that you could say is kind of competing with this series, but by and far and away the best series in the East. I mean, like you said, like the Magic came out and looked like the experienced team they were, and then like an experienced team, they come and bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a coin toss at this point, and who's gonna win this series. I expect this series to go 7 games. And I mean, I said it before the playoffs started when we did with some predictions, but I'm sticking with the Magic. to win this series, and then for them to get absolutely annihilated by the Boston Celtics. But
Yeah, that's a sweep, right? I know
that
that's
is a sweep. I'm
disrespectful, but
sorry,
it's
Orlando, but that's a sweep. And you know what's weird though, if I'm thinking about it, I think for some reason, I think if the Cavaliers win this series and match up against Boston, I don't think Cleveland gets swept. But
they have more star power. Yeah.
I do think the Cavaliers have enough offensive firepower to get one game versus Boston. But the Magic will get swept easily.
I mean, I think that it's feasible that the Celtics don't lose another game until they get to the finals at this point, for being honest about it, because
I mean,
I know the Knicks play tough, but
projecting forward, but we talk about offensive fire. I think let's say they end up matching up against Indiana.
that's no. The Celtics would beat them by 30 points every game.
We talk about the offensive firepower, but
yeah, but the Celtics play defense. It's like I truly, I mean, this is like best case scenario for the dang Celtics right now. They're going to be matched up. I mean, it was already good they were going to be matched up with the Cavs or the Magic in the second round, who really never posed a threat to them. But then the two other best teams in the conference are kind of banged up and not playing their best basketball. I mean, does the road keep getting easier and easier for the dang Celtics this season?
You don't think let's say it's the Knicks, for example. You don't think the Knicks can steal a game?
Maybe steal a game, but it's not. I mean, going 5 games isn't the Celtics sweating at all. Like,
yeah,
we're talking about maybe somebody winning 1 game. Like, that's the point we're at now. It's not like, will the Celtics win? It's like, no, will the other team not get swept? That's what we're talking about at this point. I mean, I think the Knicks, they play too hard. That's why it's the same with the Magic. It would not shock me if the Magic snuck one out, just 1 game. It wouldn't shock me. I would I bet on it? No, but it would not completely shock. And it's the same thing with the Knicks. The Knicks will probably sneak one.
I think simply because the Knicks have a guy by the name of Jalen Brunson that he's the type of guy that, the way he's been playing this season, he could drop like 60 on him and a magical performance on 45 shots and just
and that's what it takes for this series to go 5 games. It's just crazy, but yeah, I mean, for real though, I just feel like the path keeps getting easier and easier for the Celtics. If they had to play the Bucks at full strength and maybe the 76ers, I mean, it would at least be a tough series. It wouldn't be a cakewalk. And I feel like they're about to walk into the easiest road to the finals that I've ever seen in my life. But let's go on the other side where chaos is afoot. I don't even know where to start with this one. I guess we can start with the series that is over. I still can't believe that I'm saying this out loud, but the Timberwolves, who I should have picked because I was rooting for them, but I did not pick them.
I don't think I did either.
You definitely, you thought that you said that the Timberwolves could potentially be swept. So
I did.
I thought it would at least. I think I said it would go 6. It was going to be a competitive series, but we were both wrong one way or another. Yeah, the Suns got swept by the Timberwolves. Frank Vogel is definitely getting fired from the Suns. It would be shocking if he didn't. But what the heck happened here? Honestly, what happened?
One guy. I hate to. Obviously the Timberwolves are a complete team, but let's be honest. This was Anthony Edwards saying he's going to be the face of the league.
Yeah.
I think if we're talking like this series that Anthony Edwards was able to put together, like I wouldn't be shocked if this catapulted him into top 5 players of the NBA, like next season. Like I think, like I don't know if this doesn't put him there yet, but like you gotta realize what he like. Yeah, and the Timberwolves, they play some of the best defense in the league, other than Boston probably, and the Suns just seem to be like off the entire series. And I do think Kevin. Well, he didn't say it like himself, but the reports when the article about Vogel being let go is that the reports were that Kevin Durant felt like he wasn't being used properly and just was Kevin Durant was playing like my player does on 2K, just stands in the corner and waits for the ball. And when you have Kevin Durant, who's offensively one of the best basketball players ever, and I didn't watch like every moment of every game of that series, but I did watch like a chunk of it. You know how often Kevin Durant was just standing in the corner?
Yeah, often.
Like way too often for a guy of his skill set. So, but this was the series of Anthony Edwards. Not to take away from what other guys did. I know Towns had a good series, Gobert had a good series, but this was the series of Anthony Edwards and that whole interaction. From game one with Anthony Edwards trash talking Kevin Durant, and then pretty much giving him the business the entire series, and then but shout out to Kevin Durant. He did definitely give Anthony Edwards his props at the end of the series, talking about how he's his favorite player to watch and he loves what Anthony Edwards has been doing. So props to Durant for saying that. But this is if Anthony Edwards continues to play like this, you're gonna have some real discussions about how far this Timberwolves team can go.
Yeah, I mean, it really was his coming out party. I mean, and the one thing I give him a lot of we have to remember, I think people forget, it feels like Anthony Edwards has been around for a while because this is his 4th season. Wait, no, yeah, 4th full season. And he's still only 22, by the way, which just sounds like absolute insanity. But yeah, he will be one of the faces of the league. I did a quick list here. I put him at number 7 in the league right now, personally. So, definitely in that conversation to be in the top 5. But if I was building a team, I'd have him number 7, which is still very respectable. The thing I give him so much props for, though, is that I don't know what happened this offseason, but that guy plays defense now. I don't know what in the world. Like, he hustles on that end. And I remember when we did his player profile, we had a very long discussion about him defensively because you knew he was going to be a guy that could go and score. There was never any doubts about his scoring ability. And I went on a rant saying like how players like this drive me nuts that have athletic ability but don't put in effort defensively. And I don't know if that's a matter of just coaching. I mean, that has to play a role here, like a coach that's motivating him to play better defensively, but holy cow, I don't know if I've ever seen a more dramatic improvement in a player defensively in my entire life. I mean, he defensive rating wise was in the top 5 this year, and within his first 2 years in the league, he had one of the worst defensive ratings in the entire league. I mean, it's just such a bizarre turn that I truly haven't ever seen. So good for him. The Suns just didn't play as a unit. They weren't coached well. They weren't ready. All the above. They just played terribly. And if the Wolves keep playing like this, I got to tell you, it's an interesting series with the Celtics. I'm not picking the Wolves to beat the Celtics, but let me tell you, the Celtics, they'll have to sweat in that series if the Wolves continue to fire on all cylinders like this. And it feels like the type of thing where if the Celtics really do have a cakewalk, where they'd be a little shell-shocked going into the finals. Like, holy cow, we're playing a real team all of a sudden here. Like, we're going to have to put it back into gear. So I think it could be really, really, really interesting. And I hope that we see a scenario where the Wolves and the Thunder are playing in the Western Conference Finals. I just think that would be really cool to see two franchises like that have kind of dug themselves out of the grave to play in the Western Conference Finals. A long road until we get there, and realistically, it looks like we can move to the other series in the Western Conference. They're going to be matched up with the Denver Nuggets, who, as we're recording this tonight, the Nuggets and Lakers play. The Nuggets are up 3-1, so the Nuggets could potentially end this series tonight. Realistically, the Nuggets are going to play the Timberwolves in the next round. I don't really know how much else I have to say about that series, honestly.
Yeah,
They got a game.
they got a game. It's the first time in like almost 2 years that the Lakers have beat the Nuggets.
Yeah, something like that.
Like 500 and something days or something. It's been like 11 straight matchups or something crazy. But I mean, the Lakers got a game, but it felt very meaningless. Like it just
Yeah.
felt like delaying and inevitable. I mean, and I expect this series to be over tonight. Be very shocked if it went to a game 6. I mean, the Lakers are just so old. Like it's what we've been saying about them. Like just Denver. This only thing like this, like it's not gonna jeopardize them this series. But if you're looking forward to next series and Denver continues to get out to these really bad starts, like they have like this entire series versus the Lakers, I don't think they can recover from those versus Minnesota. Like you can't like the Timberwolves will not let off. Like you saw during this series versus Phoenix, like you can't do that versus with Anthony Edwards in Minnesota. Like they're not the Lakers. You can't just make slowly climb your way back and just end up dominating at the end. Like if they get off to these slow starts, Timberwolves are going to beat them. So they gotta shore up their slow starts. But other than that, I mean, Jokic is Ben Jokic, and he has looked a little weak against AD in this series, but that ain't really gonna matter. But yeah, I'm excited for this Timberwolves and Nuggets series. So
that's a great series. I think I'd favor the Timberwolves right now. Honestly, the momentum, they're firing on all cylinders. You're not going to completely stop Jokic, but once again, you probably have a pretty good guy to slow him down, and Rudy Gobert and some length there. So I mean, the Timberwolves, it's similar to what I said a while back about the Thunder too, where I think the Thunder just feel disrespected and they're on a mission to just make it as far as they can. I feel like the Wolves are giving me that same energy now, where it's like, yeah, you guys thought we were down and out because Cat just came back and we're not for real and we're just kind of pretenders and we have to prove it in the postseason. And they're like, okay, we're here to prove it in the postseason now. So I buy a lot into that, and I think that they will beat the Nuggets. It's going to be a good series. It's not going to go 5 games or anything like that. It'll be 6 or 7, but it'll be a fantastic series. So let's go over to the other side of the Western Conference. On one end, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder up 3-0 on the New Orleans Pelicans. They are in the second quarter as we're recording right now. The Thunder only up by 3 points. So far it's been a pretty competitive game, but the Thunder have the chance to sweep the Pelicans here. The Thunder have really kind of taken care of business. There was one game they won by only 2 points. The other ones they won, I believe, by 21 and 32, something. I mean, so they've kind of rolled over the Pelicans for the most part, which is good to see. I watched some NBA analysts, and I think Charles Barkley is obsessed with the Pelicans for some reason. But some people thought this was going to be a super competitive series, and I'm kind of glad it wasn't, because I want people to start respecting what the Thunder have been doing. But I don't know, not too many notes. It's been kind of a clean series.
Yeah, and I think they've really been missing Zion.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Series, and because we've kind of seen without Zion being super aggressive, we had to look at who's going to be their main scorer, and it seems like they're trying to make it CJ McCollum, like I would have predicted. But CJ McCollum is not having a great series. So, I mean, yeah, the Thunder are just too good. The Pelicans just don't have enough to compete with OKC, who you've mentioned how dangerous this team is with what seems to be a chip on their shoulder. You know, I mean that just seems to be the case, and like we know they're most likely to advance, but we have zero clue who they're gonna be playing at this point.
Yeah, it's anybody's guess at this point. I don't know.
What's your first? So I asked to talk about the last series of this first round here, and which, in my opinion, has been the best series of the first round. What are your initial thoughts on this Clippers Mavericks series, which is pretty much, I mean, it's gone pretty much as I've expected, I guess, but this has been still just very wild.
Like, you don't sound too confident in that.
Yeah. Dallas is still winning the series, but.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still surprised because, I mean, the Clippers are down a man. So, in a kind of an important man. So, I think when that happened, a lot of people were assuming, like, oh, this is the Mavericks series to lose at this point. So, the fact that we're even here talking about it says a lot about how this Clippers team is rallied together. I mean, the Mavericks, it feels like so far, part of their problem has been Luka and Kyrie haven't clicked on the same night. It's been Kyrie scores 40, but Luka was off from 3 the other night. Luka's playing well, Kyrie's off. So it's been this very back and forth where they just haven't been clicking on all cylinders yet, which if they cannot click on all cylinders and get by the Clippers, then that's kind of dangerous at this point. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I would say is a good check in the right direction for them is they are a very strong road team. So if they end up playing game 7, which would be on the road for them, not that it super favors them, but the Mavericks do play really well on the road. So I'd still favor them just for the matter of the fact they haven't been clicking, and this is still a tied series.
Yeah, and I think, but what's interesting to note, you mentioned how the 2 games that I believe the 2 games that the Clippers have won in this series were the ones without Kawhi, correct?
Right, yep.
So, I mean, it sounds crazy, but do the Clippers need Kawhi? Or are we starting to, is it crazy to think that they could possibly have a better chance to win this series without Kawhi? Because that seems to be how the series has gone up to this point.
No, that's true.
But I will say, and I don't listen to Stephen A. very often these days anymore, but he did bring up, and I think it's kind of the most disappointing part of this series, but Russell Westbrook has looked awful.
Oh yeah, he has been bad.
And he had that moment, you know, where I believe he got the text and was ejected, and some people were surprised that he wasn't suspended. And Stephen A. was talking. I guess Stephen A. actually called the league office and demanded an explanation for why Russell Westbrook wasn't suspended, and you know, basically, the league office said that what they did in the game was enough. And I agree. You can't remove a player like that in a series like this. Now, if this was the regular season, I think we're talking about Russell Westbrook probably being suspended a game or 2.
Mm-hmm.
But oh yeah, this is, and you mentioned how both Kyrie and Luka haven't really clicked. Luka especially has really struggled shooting the ball from 3
Mm-hmm.
in this series. I believe he's had a couple of games. I believe he went like 1 for 9 from 3, and then like 2 of 10 from 3, but I do like Luka's mentality, because he did come out the other day and say he feels like he's letting Kyrie Irving down, which is very like weird to, because based on up until this point in his career, Luka's been having to shoulder the entire load in Dallas,
Mm-hmm.
basically, until like these playoffs. Because if it hasn't been for Kyrie Irving, we're talking about they're down 3-1 right now if it's not for
Oh yeah.
Kyrie Irving. So, which is why I think this makes I think, assuming they prevail during this series, I think this is a experience that they're going through right now with Luka struggling that's actually going to make them stronger as the playoffs go on. And let's say Dallas hold on versus this series. I still would pick them to beat the Thunder.
I know you
I
would.
don't think that Luka's gonna shoot this bad the rest of the playoffs. But I know you love the Thunder. So are you?
I believe
Are
in
you
the
still
Thunder.
rocking? Are you still rocking with the
For
Thunder to make the?
I mean, at this point, I can't go away. They're about
I was
to.
like, what if the Thunder done to really say, oh,
Yeah,
I don't believe in them anymore?
they're about to sweep through the Pelicans, and the Mavericks and Clippers both don't look their best right now. That just reinforces. Are you kidding me? And I know what you mean, and I agree too that it's like, okay, the Mavericks are kind of scary because I mean they could win a series not playing their best basketball. So what if they were playing their best basketball? But the reality is they're not playing their best basketballs, and the Thunder are a really tough defensive team, so it doesn't get any easier for them. So this is not the time for Luka to go cold right now. So
I
I
mean,
mean,
but
it'll be a
kinda
good
isn't
series.
it? You don't want him to go cold in the next round versus
Well, do you
those.
want them to go cold ever? Is there ever a good time in the playoffs to go cold? It's like, you know what? I don't want to win this series, so
But you gotta think of, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's been a saving grace for Luka to have Kyrie, because if this was happening before Kyrie and Luka was struggling like this,
they're
they
getting
would have lost the
swept.
series already.
Yeah.
But instead we're talking about it being tied 2-2. So I think Kyrie is really proving like how valuable he's been to this Dallas team this series.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I'm still going. I'm going Knicks, Celtics, and Timberwolves, Thunder at this point. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still rocking. I mean, they haven't exactly done a lot to, boost my confidence level in them. But I'm still sticking with Dallas. I think at this point, I'm with you. I think it's gonna be Dallas and Timberwolves in the Western Finals. If I'm gonna update my predictions, I'm still picking Dallas to come out of the West and lose to the Celtics in 5 games.
Yeah, gosh. I'm curious now. What is the record for least amount of games played in an NBA playoffs? Because the Celtics could potentially get there. I don't know. No one's probably swept their way through the playoffs before.
Has anybody spoken?
That sounds like that would be insanity. But no, I kind of want to look that up now. I'm going to look it up when we're done recording here now because I want to know what that answer is. But any other comments on these playoff series here? Anything else?
No, I mean, it's very unfortunate that my team's going down, but the one thing I will say, and this goes for pretty much like any sport, when you have like a favorite team and your team either is not in the playoffs or gets eliminated right away, it really allows you to enjoy the game.
That's true. Yeah.
You know? That's kind of the mindset I have to have now.
Because you're forced to, not because you want to. It's because you're being forced.
It's not looking very good. But yeah, I mean, I'm just like, we kind of knew based how the season was going that, you know, the playoffs would get like a little crazy. But like, you know, like you said, with the Timberwolves sweeping Phoenix and and we were talking about before, I don't think anybody expected like Giannis to miss this much of the series.
Yeah.
So, and he's not being to be there for Game 5. So, you know, I don't think anybody expected that. So I don't think anybody really expected Indiana to do what they're doing, and this just creates so many possibilities. And the one thing that has been what we knew going in was that Boston was the best team in the league. That's what we knew. And that's still going to be the case.
It's like, has that been confirmed? Okay, cool. I think that's it then. So the next time that we chat, we will most likely, unless something crazy happens, be talking about some second round matchups and what's going on there. So we appreciate you guys listening, and we will see you then.